Okay, two lifestyles, two very different price tags. One of them is way cheaper than you think, and one of them is sneaking money out of your pocket in ways nobody talks about. Tiny home or van life. In 2026, with housing costs still brutal and inflation still biting, more people than ever are choosing one of these two paths as a real, full-time housing solution. But here's the question nobody answers honestly. Which one actually costs less? Not just to start, but every single month for years. I dug through the real 2026 numbers. Purchase costs, monthly expenses, hidden fees, depreciation, the works. And the answer might completely flip what you assumed going in. Stay with me to the end, because I'm going to break this down category by category, and I will give you a side-by-side total at the end that you can actually use to make a real decision. Before we get into the numbers, if you're new here, this channel is all about honest, research-backed, tiny living content. No fluff, no hype. Hit subscribe and the bell so you never miss a video. Now let us get into it. First, let us define what we are actually comparing here, because both of these categories have a wide range. When I say van life, I mean a full-time live-in converted cargo van. Think Ford Transit, Mercedes Sprinter, Ram ProMaster, with a built-out interior. A real bed, some kind of kitchen setup, maybe solar, and no traditional home base. When I say tiny home, I mean a tiny house on wheels, a THOW. Not a cabin on a foundation, not an ADU. A purpose-built or purchased tiny home on a trailer, typically parked in a community lot or on rented land. Around 200 to 400 square feet. Both are legit full-time housing alternatives. Both are growing like crazy in 2026. And both have a version that is smart and affordable, and a version that will absolutely drain you. So let us start with what it actually costs to get in the door. Round 1, upfront cost. How much do you need to actually get started? Van life purchase cost. For van life, in 2026 your realistic startup range is between $25,000 and $100,000 or more. That is a big spread, so let me break it down. On the new vehicle side, a 2026 Ram ProMaster now starts at roughly $45,000 to $50,000 MSRP, and that is before a single bolt of the conversion goes in. A Mercedes Sprinter can easily touch $65,000 off the lot. These are not small numbers. For most budget-conscious people, the used market is the play. A solid used Ford Transit or Sprinter in good shape runs $20,000 to $40,000 depending on year and mileage. Add a DIY conversion, bed frame, insulation, basic electrical, a little kitchen setup, for $3,000 to $8,000 if you are handy, and you are all in around $30,000 to $50,000. A professional conversion from a specialty shop that can add $30,000 to $80,000 on top of the van cost. Realistically, a solid, livable van life setup for a budget-conscious buyer in 2026 lands somewhere around $35,000 to $55,000 all in. A premium setup with a professional high-end conversion can easily top $100,000 to $120,000. Tiny home purchase cost. Now for the tiny home. A new tiny home on wheels from a reputable professional builder in 2026 costs between $70,000 and $150,000. That higher floor compared to even 2 years ago is real. Premiumization of the market and material costs have pushed entry-level professional builds up. A 200 square foot professional build is averaging around $70,000 to $90,000 right now. Used tiny homes on the resale market can be found for $25,000 to $50,000. But condition is everything. Inspect carefully before you commit. A DIY tiny home build on a trailer? Materials only, you are looking at $20,000 to $50,000. But here is what catches people off guard. The trailer alone runs $8,000 to $12,000 in 2026 for a custom heavy-duty build, because steel prices have pushed those numbers up significantly from prior years. And a full DIY build can take 800 to 2,000 hours of skilled labor. Here's something most people do not factor in with a tiny home. You still need a tow vehicle to move it. Budget $15,000 to $25,000 for a capable used truck if you do not already have one. That is a cost van life simply does not have. Upfront cost verdict. Van life wins this round, especially for the budget-conscious buyer. A capable van life setup can be done for roughly $35,000 to $50,000 all in. A comparable tiny home setup, including a tow vehicle, often runs $85,000 to $110,000 or more. This is where the real story is. Upfront cost matters, but what you pay every single month is what determines whether this lifestyle is financially sustainable long-term. Let us go category by category. Fuel. Van life has one major expense that tiny home life does not: fuel, and a lot of it. In early 2026, diesel prices are averaging around $4.80 to $5.60 per gallon nationally, and your typical cargo van gets around 15 to 20 miles per gallon on regular gasoline. If you are traveling actively and moving every few days, fuel costs run $300 to $600 per month. If you find a spot you love and stay put for weeks at a time, more like $150 to $300 per month. Full-time van lifers who travel heavily report averaging around $460 per month in fuel. A tiny home on wheels does not move much. When you do haul it, a diesel truck pulling a trailer gets roughly 10 to 14 miles per gallon, which is expensive, but since most tiny homeowners move only a few times a year, the monthly fuel average works out at $50 to $150. Fuel winner. Tiny home, if you stay relatively put. Van life is cheaper on fuel if you love long-term stationary parking. Campsite and lot rent. Here is where van life has a serious structural advantage that most people underestimate. Van lifers can legally camp for free on Bureau of Land Management land and National Forest land for extended periods, often 14-day limits before you need to move a few miles. Most experienced van lifers camp for free the majority of the year. When they do pay for a site, basic campgrounds run $6 to $18 per night. Most van lifers mix free BLM camping with occasional paid stays, ending up with $0 to $400 per month on camping total. That is a wildly flexible number. Tiny homeowners have essentially zero ability to camp for free. You need a legal parking spot, and those cost money, every single month without exception. Lot rent in a tiny home community or RV park runs $400 to $800 per month in most of the country. In hot markets like Florida, California, and Colorado, $900 or more per month is becoming common. Private land leasing from an individual might go for $200 to $600 per month, but those arrangements can be less stable. Lot rent winner. Van life, and it is not close. This single category can represent $400 to $900 per month in savings for van lifers compared to tiny homeowners. Utilities. Tiny homeowners with a hookup at a lot pay real utility bills: electricity, water, sometimes gas or sewer fees. The average tiny home owner pays $50 to $200 per month in utilities, dramatically less than a traditional home, but it is still a fixed monthly bill. Van lifers run almost entirely off-grid. Solar panels, a 12-volt system, and water jugs mean monthly utility costs are close to zero. The rare paid campsite with hookups might add a little, but most van lifers see no traditional utility bill. Utility winner. Van life for the off-grid setup. Insurance. Van life vehicle insurance in 2026 ranges from $100 to $180 per month for a high-end van build with full-time or RV class coverage. Basic coverage can come in lower, but if your van is your home, you need the right policy, and full-time coverage has seen a slight bump this year. Tiny home insurance runs $35 to $125 per month, or roughly $500 to $1,500 annually. Tiny homes win this category, meaningfully lower insurance costs than a full-time van in most cases. Insurance winner. Tiny home. Maintenance and repairs. This is the category that surprises people most on both sides. Vans are vehicles. They depreciate, they break down, and they need consistent maintenance. Oil changes, tires, brakes, belts. Budget $75 to $165 per month for routine maintenance. But emergency repairs, transmission, alternator, or roof failure in your living space can hit for $1,000 to $5,000 with no warning. And if your van is in the shop, you are also without a home. Tiny homes have their own maintenance requirements: roof sealing, trailer upkeep, plumbing, and the structural where that comes from road vibration over time. Budget $75 to $150 per month for reserves. They do not have engine-related expenses, but structural repairs can be equally expensive. Maintenance, roughly a wash. Both require a solid monthly reserve. Slight edge to tiny homes for predictability, since a van engine failure is simultaneously a housing crisis. Connectivity and internet. Both lifestyles need reliable internet, especially for remote workers. In 2026, the gold standard for nomad connectivity is the Starlink Mini, a low-power, compact unit purpose-built for van life and mobile living. The Starlink Roam regional plan runs $150 per month, and the Mini bundled with a residential account can come in around $120 per month. Traditional unlimited phone plans with hotspot capability run $50 to $150 per month and serve as a solid backup or primary connection for lighter users. Most van lifers and tiny homeowners spend $50 to $150 per month on connectivity, with heavy remote workers on Starlink at the top of that range. This category is essentially equal across both lifestyles. One 2026 game changer worth mentioning. Here is something new that is starting to shift the van life conversation. Vehicle-to-load technology, or V2L. Some 2026 electric vans and trucks, like the Ford F-150 Lightning and the Electra Transit, can actually power appliances and devices directly from the vehicle battery. In theory, this eliminates the need for a separate solar and battery system in a build. The upfront cost of an electric van is higher, but the long-term utility cost picture changes. It is early days, but worth watching if you are planning a build in 2026 or beyond. Full monthly cost comparison. Monthly expense. Van life. Tiny home. Fuel. $200 to $460. $50 to $150. Lot rent / camping. $0 to $300. $400 to $900. Utilities. $0 to $50. $50 to $200. Insurance. $100 to $180. $40 to $125. Maintenance reserve. $75 to $165. $75 to $150. Connectivity. $50 to $150. $50 to $150. Monthly total. $425 to $1,305. $665 to $1,675. That is before health insurance, food, or personal spending, which are roughly equal across both lifestyles and depend entirely on your choices. On a pure monthly basis, a frugal van lifer can live for as little as $900 to $1,400 per month total. A frugal tiny home dweller realistically runs $1,200 to $1,800 per month. That gap of $300 to $600 per month is real, and it compounds significantly over years. Monthly cost verdict. Van life wins for pure monthly cost savings, especially for solo travelers and those who embrace free camping. Now here's where things get really interesting. The hidden costs that the Instagram photos and YouTube vlogs never show you. Van life hidden costs. Number 1. Health and comfort. You are living in a metal box. Temperature regulation is hard. In summer, a van interior can hit 120 degrees. In winter, condensation and cold are constant battles. Many van lifers spend on gym memberships, $30 to $70 per month, 4 showers and basic facilities. The physical and mental toll of living in a small vehicle is real and rarely discussed in the highlight reels. Number 2. No fixed address. This sounds minor until you try to open a bank account, get mail, renew your driver's license, access healthcare, or file your taxes. Most van lifers use mail forwarding services at $15 to $30 per month. Some states require you to physically return to establish a legal domicile. Number 3. Vehicle failure risk. When your home breaks down, you are not just stranded, you are effectively homeless. One experienced van lifer who spent 2 years on the road before transitioning to a tiny home described the constant underlying stress as a real cost that does not show up in any spreadsheet. Number 4. The isolation factor. Van life can be profoundly lonely. Sustained separation from community, friends, and routine has a cumulative emotional cost. This is not hypothetical. It is reported consistently by people who have lived the lifestyle long-term. Tiny home hidden costs. Number 1. Zoning and legal placement. This is the single biggest hidden cost of tiny home ownership in 2026. Not every city, county, or state allows tiny homes, and the rules vary dramatically. If you buy a tiny home without verifying where you can legally park it, you could end up paying a lot of rent somewhere you hate, or worse, receiving a code enforcement notice and being forced to move. Number 2, depreciation. A tiny home on wheels depreciates like a vehicle, not like real estate. It does not build equity the way a traditional home does. A $75,000 tiny home may be worth $45,000 to $55,000 in 5 years if it was well maintained. Foundation-based tiny homes on owned land fare better, but for most wheel-based tiny homes, do not plan on appreciation. Number 3, transportation cost when you move. Professional transport of a tiny home runs $1 to $5 per mile with a $500 to $1,000 minimum. Moving across states could cost $1,500 to $5,000 per move. This is not a lifestyle that moves cheaply. Number 4, financing premium. Most tiny homes do not qualify for traditional mortgages. FHA loans require a minimum 400 square feet and a permanent foundation, which most those do not meet. Personal loan interest rates in 2026 run from 6.5% to 15% for good credit, and up to 36% for weaker credit. RV loans require 10 to 20% down and a 660 to 700 credit score minimum. The financing premium is significant and often goes unbudgeted. Short-term thinking misleads a lot of people in this decision. So let us run the 5-year numbers with honest assumptions. Van life, 5-year estimate. Upfront cost, $45,000 all in for a solid used van and quality build. Monthly running cost, $1,200 per month average for a moderate traveler who mixes free and paid camping. Over 5 years, that is $72,000 in monthly expenses. At the end of 5 years, your van may be worth $15,000 to $22,000 on resale. It has high mileage and conversion wear. Total 5-year cost after resale, roughly $95,000 to $102,000. Tiny home, 5-year estimate. Upfront cost, $85,000 all in for a mid-range professional tiny home plus tow vehicle. Monthly running cost, $1,500 per month average. Lot rent, utilities, insurance, maintenance. Over 5 years, that is $90,000 in monthly expenses. At the end of 5 years, your tiny home may be worth $50,000 to $65,000. Better residual value than a van in most cases, assuming good maintenance. Total 5-year cost, after residual value, roughly $110,000 to $125,000. 5-year verdict. Van life is cheaper over 5 years by roughly $15,000 to $25,000, even accounting for the better resale value of a tiny home. But, and this is important, if you own the land your tiny home sits on, the calculus changes completely. Land appreciates. A tiny home on owned land can become a genuine wealth-building asset over time. That single variable flips the entire financial comparison. Money is not the only currency in this decision. Let us talk about what each lifestyle actually gives you and costs you in day-to-day reality. What van life gives you? True freedom of movement. You wake up in the mountains on Tuesday and you can be at the coast by Friday. No commitments, no fixed address, no landlord. For certain personalities, adventurous, solo, digitally nomadic, this is deeply fulfilling. The lowest possible housing overhead. If you're disciplined about free camping and cooking your own food, you can live on $1,000 per month or less. That is nearly unmatched financial freedom in 2026. Community, in the form of the van life subculture. Fellow travelers, online communities, meetups. It is a real and genuinely valuable thing for many people. What van life costs you? Space. You are living in 40 to 80 square feet. Everything you own either fits or it goes. For some people, this is liberating. For others, it becomes a slow, grinding reality check. Stability. One van lifer who spent 2 years on the road before moving into a tiny home described the emotional reality honestly. The freedom was real, but so was the loneliness, the constant logistics, and the low-level anxiety of living in a vehicle with no fixed home base. Privacy. Having someone over is nearly impossible. Intimate relationships require creative thinking. Bringing a pet adds complexity and cost. Working remotely from a van requires disciplined planning around connectivity and weather. What a tiny home gives you. A home, not a vehicle, not a camping setup, a real home. Higher ceilings, proper insulation, a real kitchen with a full-size range, a dedicated bathroom, a loft bedroom that actually feels like a loft bedroom. One woman who transitioned from van life to a tiny home said, "It was the first time the space genuinely felt like hers." Stability and community. Parking in a tiny home community gives you neighbors, social connection, shared spaces, and a fixed address. That matters for your mental health, your banking, your healthcare access, and your sense of belonging. Better year-round livability. A properly insulated tiny home is comfortable in winter and summer in ways a van conversion rarely matches. You are not fighting condensation or managing extreme temperature swings the same way. What a tiny home costs you. Flexibility. Once your tiny home is parked, moving it is a production. You are not spontaneously driving to a new state on a Tuesday morning. Mobility is possible, but it requires planning, logistics, and real money. Higher monthly overhead. Lot rent is a fixed, recurring expense. Utilities are real. The monthly cost of tiny home ownership is consistently higher than van life. Zoning stress. In 2026, not all counties welcome tiny homes. Before you buy, know exactly where you will park it legally. This is not an afterthought. It is the first question you need to answer. Let me give you something genuinely useful here. A real decision framework based on the data, not the Instagram aesthetic. Choose van life if you are single or a couple without children. You are comfortable with a nomadic lifestyle and genuinely enjoy regular movement. Your income is location independent. You want the absolute lowest monthly housing cost possible. You are mentally and emotionally suited for solitude and minimal space. You do not mind the lack of a fixed address and are willing to navigate the logistics that come with it. Choose a tiny home if you value stability, community, and a sense of home over pure mobility. You want a dedicated workspace, a real kitchen, and a real bathroom. You are part of a couple, have a pet, or have a child. You can access or own land. This changes the financial equation dramatically. You plan to stay in one region for years, not weeks. You want better long-term resale value and a more traditional sense of home. The hybrid answer. Interestingly, some people who have done both end up in a hybrid setup. Tiny home as a base, van or truck for occasional extended travel. It covers both worlds. It is not the most budget-friendly option, but for the right person, it is the most livable arrangement. If you have the land and the budget, it is worth considering. So, which is actually cheaper in 2026? If we are talking pure financial cost, upfront and month-to-month, van life wins. Lower entry cost, dramatically lower lot rent, no utility bills, and the possibility of essentially free housing through BLM and National Forest camping. A disciplined van lifer can live for under $1,200 per month all in. That is genuinely hard to beat, but cheaper does not mean better. Tiny home living, for the right person in the right situation, especially with owned or low-cost land, offers better quality of life, better long-term stability, better resale value, and a more sustainable long-term housing solution. The real-world cost gap over 5 years is roughly $15,000 to $25,000. That is real money, but it is not the entire picture. The honest answer is this. If you're chasing pure affordability and you are a solo, nomadic, adventurous personality, van life wins on numbers. If you are chasing a sustainable, comfortable life at a fraction of traditional housing costs, the tiny home is the smarter long-term play, especially if land is in the picture. What I would tell you not to do is choose based on the Instagram highlight reel of either lifestyle. Both are real, both have real costs, and both require honest self-assessment before you commit tens of thousands of dollars. If this video helped you think more clearly about this decision, drop a comment below and tell me which one you are leaning toward and why. I read every single one. And if you want to go even deeper, I have got videos on the full cost of building a tiny home from scratch and what nobody tells you about van life before you start. Both are linked on screen right now. Subscribe if you're not already. I put out honest, data-driven housing content every week. No fluff, no hype, no sponsorships telling me what to say. just the real numbers. See you in the next one.